After 44 years, the mystery of Natalie Wood's death has finally been solved. And the truth may be even darker than anyone expected. Once celebrated as the muse of American cinema, she was admired for her beauty, her talent, and the image of a woman who seemed to have everything. Yet behind the glowing red carpets and polished smiles was a troubled past that Hollywood quietly kept out of view, a shadow she never truly escaped. So what really happened? Why was the truth about her death delayed for so long? And why did certain powerful names appear to remain protected? Don't look away as we reveal rare photos and untold details that shed new light on her story. Natalie Wood was born on July 20, 1938, in San Francisco, the daughter of Russian immigrants Maria and Nikolai, a beginning that would lead to extraordinary fame and ultimately enduring mystery. Natalie Wood's mother, Maria, was convinced that her daughter was the family's only escape from poverty. When Natalie was just 4 years old, she was pushed into acting, marking the beginning of a journey filled with bright lights and applause, but also deep resentment and sacrifice. Beneath the glamour of the stage and the relentless demands of the film industry, the little girl who dazzled audiences soon found herself trapped in the very world where she seemed to shine the most. By the age of 9, her role in Miracle on 34th Street turned her into America's beloved child angel. She came to symbolize innocence and purity, becoming the post-war dream of millions of American families. Yet behind that radiant image lay a stolen childhood. Natalie was no longer simply a child. She had become a carefully crafted cinematic product, shaped and controlled by her parents and the powerful figures who ruled Hollywood. As she had to learn music, to smile through pain, to stay silent when hurt, because the voice of a child was never heard in a world ruled by powerful adults. By 16, she found herself pulled into her first major scandal, a secretive relationship with director Nicholas Ray, a man nearly 3 decades older than her. From that controversial connection came the defining opportunity of her youth, a starring role in Rebel Without a Cause beside James Dean. But fame demanded a price. Her innocence, many believe, was taken in a room at the Chateau Marmont, a place long whispered about as Hollywood's unspoken rite of passage, where ambition and vulnerability often collided. After that turning point, her career accelerated rapidly. She went on to headline unforgettable films like West Side Story, Splendor in the Grass, and Love with the Proper Stranger, earning an Academy Award nomination before she had even turned 25. The media began calling her America's Audrey Hepburn, graceful, intelligent, and emotionally profound. Yet behind her luminous eyes lingered a quiet melancholy, as though she were forever cast in the leading role of a tragedy unfolding off-screen. Beyond cinema, she also made her mark on television, appearing in productions such as The Pride of the Family and episodes of Pepsi-Cola Playhouse, further solidifying her place in America's living rooms as well as its theaters. Among her television work, Natalie considered the episode Carnival from General Electric Theater to be one of her most meaningful artistic achievements. At the same time, Natalie Wood's film career continued to rise with a wide range of roles in The Silver Chalice, One Desire, The Searchers, as well as 2 successful comedies alongside Tony Curtis, Sex and the Single Girl and The Great Race. Her ability to speak Russian fluently added remarkable depth to her portrayal of Maggie Du Bois in The Great Race, highlighting her versatility and artistic intelligence. Director Sidney Pollack once said, "When she is right for a role, no one can outshine Natalie." That statement was reflected in her powerful performances in Inside Daisy Clover and This Property is Condemned, both starring opposite Robert Redford, which earned her 2 Golden Globe nominations. By the mid-1960s, Natalie Wood stood shoulder to shoulder with Elizabeth Taylor and Audrey Hepburn, firmly established as one of the most powerful and celebrated stars in Hollywood. Yet fame did not come without cruelty. In 1966, Natalie Wood was mockingly named Worst Actress by the Harvard Lampoon. Instead of hiding from the embarrassment, she did something unexpected. She showed up in person to accept the satirical award. The press praised her composure, calling it a display of courage and grace in the face of public ridicule. It was a reminder that even under harsh scrutiny, Natalie refused to retreat. Her complex and ultimately tragic life would later be revisited in the television film The Mystery of Natalie Wood, inspired by biographies such as Natasha, the biography of Natalie Wood by Suzanne Finstad and Natalie and R.J. by Warren G. Harris. The dramatization traced her path from child prodigy to Hollywood legend, while reopening lingering questions about love, heartbreak, and the mysterious circumstances surrounding her death, questions that have never fully disappeared. At the center of her personal life stood Robert Wagner, the man many believed was the great love and fate of her life. They first married on December 28, 1957, when Natalie was only 19. To the public, they were the perfect Hollywood couple, glamorous, successful, and effortlessly radiant before the cameras. But behind closed doors, the image began to fracture. In early 1961, according to several accounts, Natalie uncovered a painful secret. Robert Wagner was allegedly involved in an affair, and not with a woman, but with another man. That revelation cut deeply into the already fragile inner world of Natalie Wood. In June 1961, the couple announced their separation, and by April 1962, their divorce was finalized. Yet after Robert Wagner, Natalie's love life found little stability. She became involved in a series of turbulent relationships with stars such as Warren Beatty, Michael Caine, and David Niven Jr., romances that were intense but short-lived, deepening her sense of emotional uncertainty. In 1965, Natalie became engaged to Venezuelan producer Ladislao Blotnick, but the relationship ended before it could lead to marriage. Just when it seemed she might have found lasting happiness, she married for the second time on May 30, 1969, to British producer Richard Gregson. In September 1970, their daughter Natasha was born, offering hope for a stable family life. But only 2 years later, that marriage also collapsed after Natalie discovered Gregson had been unfaithful. Leaving behind her second failed marriage, she carried with her a growing doubt about love and a deep fear of abandonment. Then, in early 1972, in a twist few expected, Natalie rekindled her relationship with her former husband, Robert Wagner. In July of that year, Natalie Wood and Robert Wagner remarried in a quiet ceremony aboard a yacht off the coast of Malibu. Soon after, they welcomed another daughter, Courtney, a symbol of what seemed like a fresh beginning. Yet beneath that hopeful new chapter, old wounds lingered in silence. In 2015, a former FBI agent named Donald G. Wilson came forward claiming he had carried on an affair with Natalie from 1973 to 1977, during the time she was still living with Wagner and even pregnant with Courtney. He repeated the allegation in a 2016 documentary aired on the Real Channel, reigniting questions about the stability of her second marriage. But the darkest shadow over Natalie's life was not her failed romances. It was a trauma that had haunted her since adolescence, an accusation of rape. In the 2001 biography Natasha, the biography of Natalie Wood by Suzanne Finstad, it was revealed that Natalie was allegedly brutally assaulted at the age of 16 by a famous married actor she had once admired. The attack reportedly occurred during a screen test at the Chateau Marmont, lasted for hours, and left her deeply scarred both physically and emotionally. Out of fear, and because her mother had taught her to understand the power dynamics of Hollywood, Natalie never reported her attacker. Instead, she buried the pain and continued to face the public with a radiant smile, as though nothing had ever happened behind closed doors. In 2021, in her memoir Little Sister, Lana Wood publicly named the man she claimed had assaulted her sister, Kirk Douglas, a legendary screen icon and long-standing symbol of American masculinity. Yet according to Lana, behind that towering reputation was the man who stole Natalie Wood's youth and innocence. Natalie's life seemed to be a constant battle between light and shadow, between dazzling fame and a private hell she endured in silence. To the public, she remained the picture-perfect star. But behind the flawless image was a woman deeply wounded at her core. After her bitter divorce from Robert Wagner in 1962, Natalie was no longer the Hollywood princess audiences once adored. The brilliant spotlight began to fade, and in its place emerged a different Natalie, more rebellious, more defiant, and increasingly consumed by the darkness within. She no longer searched for love, she searched for escape. And that escape did not come from the heart, but from the flesh. Natalie plunged into a series of forbidden affairs, as if waging war against the very world that had broken her. Warren Beatty, widely known as one of Hollywood's most notorious womanizers, became the first name linked to what many perceived as her form of revenge, fighting back through desire and defiance. With Warren Beatty, Natalie Wood did not fall gently in love, she ignited. They were like two reckless flames, fierce and uncontrollable, consuming everything around them. Their nights blurred into excess, drinking without restraint, chasing passion as if time itself were running out, spiraling through arguments, tears, and emotional explosions. At one point, Beatty reportedly shouted by a pool, "I'm not Wagner," as though even he felt himself pulled into the deep, unresolved darkness Natalie carried from her past. Yet Beatty was only the beginning. After him, Natalie entered what many considered one of the most taboo relationships of that era, with a celebrated actress known publicly only by the initials JTJ. She was widely regarded as the embodiment of elegance and decorum, often seen in high-necked gowns and offering soft, composed smiles to the press. But beneath that refined exterior was a woman said to be tightly bound by expectation and repression. Natalie, with her defiance and emotional intensity, became a mirror reflecting JTJ's hidden longing to live authentically. The two women withdrew from Hollywood's glare, renting a beachside villa and cutting themselves off from the industry, living as though the outside world no longer mattered. For a time, it seemed like freedom. But what they found there was far from paradise. Their bond became a storm of passion and volatility, an intense fusion of love, anger, and emotional dependence. Rumors swirled within elite circles about strange rituals and excess, while Natalie would seem to drift further from clarity, blurring the fragile boundary between desire and despair. A close friend once admitted, Natalie no longer believed in love. She believed in pleasure as the last form of power she had left. It was as if intimacy had become not connection, but control, the only currency she felt she still possessed. Then, in 1972, she stunned Hollywood by remarrying Robert Wagner. Headlines framed it as fate fulfilled, a sweeping romance revived after heartbreak. To the public, it was a love story reborn. But those who knew her well saw something far more troubling. They believed she wasn't reclaiming happiness. She was walking back into the very shadows she had once fought to escape. Because Natalie was not simply returning to a former husband. She was returning to a man many believed had once enveloped her in control, jealousy, and an isolating loneliness that hollowed her from within. Their second marriage was no fairy tale. Though they posed hand in hand on red carpets and smiled beneath flashing cameras, behind closed doors tensions simmered. Arguments flared, suspicions lingered, and Natalie herself appeared increasingly anxious, fragile beneath the polished surface the world continued to admire. In her final years, Natalie would increasingly rely on alcohol and sedatives, seeking relief from fears she rarely spoke about openly. Then came the night of November 29, 1981, a night that would forever alter Hollywood history. Natalie, her husband Robert Wagner, and actor Christopher Walken set sail aboard the yacht Splendor for what was meant to be a quiet weekend escape to Santa Catalina Island. It was supposed to be a retreat. Instead, it became a tragedy. By dawn, Natalie's lifeless body was discovered floating in the icy water. The initial explanation suggested she had accidentally slipped while attempting to board a dinghy. But almost immediately, doubts began to surface. Witnesses from a nearby boat later claimed they heard a woman's desperate cries cutting through the darkness. "Help me! He pushed me!" Authorities also documented multiple bruises on Natalie's arms and face, marks that raised troubling questions about whether a struggle had taken place before she entered the water. Christopher Walken, who first stated he had gone to bed early and knew nothing of the incident, later revised parts of his account, adding further uncertainty to an already murky timeline. And Robert Wagner, he remained publicly silent for nearly 3 decades. No detailed explanation. No admission of wrongdoing. Not even a clear expression of remorse. The silence itself became part of the mystery, leaving behind questions that continue to echo long after that fatal night. It wasn't until 2011, after renewed public pressure and the surfacing of new evidence, that the case surrounding Natalie Wood's death was reopened. In a dramatic turn, Robert Wagner was officially named a person of interest. Public reaction was swift and intense. Many began asking the same questions. Was Natalie murdered? Did Wagner, in a moment of rage, push her from the deck? And why had the truth seemingly been buried for so many years? The death of Natalie Wood is not just a tragedy. It remains one of Hollywood's darkest and most enduring mysteries. Thank you for watching until the end. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next story. See you in the next video, where more untold secrets will be revealed.